In a grim tale of bureaucracy, human loss and brutal negligence, the Western Cape Legislature's Standing Committee on Infrastructure has finally heard the horrifying truth behind the deadly George building collapse. The briefing was not just another "we'll look into it" moment. It was a chilling reminder that for many migrants in South Africa, a job on a construction site can very quickly become a death sentence. On May 6, 2024, a multi-story building under construction in George came crashing down in a rare and catastrophic pancake collapse, turning floor upon floor into a concrete grave. 34 lives were lost and dozens were maimed. The survivors scared, the rescuers haunted, the country still shrugging. According to Gerard Otto, the head of disaster management for the Garden Route district, the operation to find survivors and recover bodies stretched an exhausting 260 hours. Yes, 11 full days under the rubble, searching for people buried by a system that failed them. Of the 62 people trapped, only a handful came out alive, and most of the dead weren't even South Africans. In fact, only 16 were. The rest, migrants, mostly Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, Malawians, and Basotho, some undocumented, some with families who may never even know they died. Just let that sink in a little bit. The South African government couldn't even keep track of the people building its cities. Yet amidst the carnage, one story of resilience emerged. Gabriel Gumba pulled out of the rubble 118 hours in, survived almost unscathed. That brief moment of hope lifted the spirits of over 1,000 emergency personnel who worked the site. Rescue technicians, medics, volunteers, even dogs sniffing through death and debris. But don't be fooled. This wasn't some well-oiled world-class response. Rescue equipment had to be hauled from Worcester, 5 hours away. Critical hours lost, and because most victims spoke little English or Afrikaans, psychological support was a guessing game. Good luck telling someone in Chichewa that their brother is dead when you don't speak Chichewa. What kind of system is that? And then came the hammer blow. A damning report from the National Home Builders Registration Council, NHBRC. It revealed that this entire death trap of a building wasn't even properly registered as a multi-story project. That's right. On paper, it was a single-story structure. The contractor, Lighthouse Developments, and its director, Theuns Kruger, took a shortcut. And the NHBRC, they rolled out the red carpet of incompetence, approving without checking, nodding through applications with missing documents, and waving on a development that had already started building before enrollment. Let's say that again. The NHBRC greenlit a multi-story building after it had already started going up. Not just a paperwork error, a fatal lapse. Minister of Human Settlements, Thembi Simelane, was visibly shaken as she presented what she called a very sad
and non-compliance with the NHBRC enrollment procedures, resulting in critical regulatory breaches and unauthorized approvals. For example, the enrollment forms were processed on the 11th July 2023. Even though the construction date was scheduled to start for the 19th June or had already started on the 19th June 2023. Again, the officials did not verify that a home builder was registered to construct, despite the building plans showing that this was indeed a multi-story building or a multi-story enrollment. Thus, a contractor was allowed to proceed with the construction of a multi-story building without the proper enrollment process for a multi-story building. Even more disturbing was the unlawful use of other officials' credentials to enroll the first phase of the project. This actually demonstrated the breakdown in NHBRC internal processes. Just to elaborate it a bit further, the process is designed technologically in such a way that each and every person has a code to approve a particular process, and you are supposed to approve it to move to the next. In this instance, one used the credentials of the other to approve and pass the certification process, which we find to be very irregular in terms of subverting our own internal control measures and systems. Let me touch on the inspection model. The inspection model carried out by NHBRC personnel on the project were marked equally by several lapses and failures that significantly compromise the regulatory oversight required for such a large-scale project. This included an official conducting an initial inspection 8 days after the project enrollment has happened. And our standard is a 5-day, so it's a maximum of 5 days. You need to do it on or before the 5-day window period, and this was undertaken on the 8-day period. And this is not in line with our inspection control of NHBRC. More worrying was that the inspection reports included units which were yet to be constructed, which means you inspect in phases in a May, but also this was a holistic one. Let me touch a little bit on site occupational health and safety adherence. The investigation revealed several breaches on our occupational health and safety adherence standard in relation to construction. This included failure to address safety concerns, resignation of a safety consultant, in the absence of OHS provisions in the NHBRC procedures. Futuristically, we believe that the inspection homes procedures lack clear guidelines of addressing OHS violations, leaving inspectors without the mandate to enforce safety compliance on construction site. This is one of our takeaway homes as well from our own systems and procedures on what we need to improve. Competency of artisans and other staff on site. There were gaps in the competency of key personnel. This included unqualified personnel who lacked formal qualifications in engineering or quantity surveying, and they were playing critical roles in areas such as inspection. And if you are not qualified, you really won't even know what to inspect. And that's one of the reasons which led to the problems that subsequently befell the George building. Technical manager competency. The competency of a technical manager was equally found wanting. The investigation revealed significant deficiencies in the oversight and assessment of the manager's qualification, as the latter were not thoroughly reassessed at the time of appointment. You will recall we spoke about the breaches in relation to the enrollment process, which is one of the processes where you have to look closely on who works, on who oversight, and who also deal with the day-to-day monitoring of that. So according to the report, this played a major role in the technical missteps.
Admitting that internal systems had failed catastrophically. Simelani even acknowledged that the system enabled the contractor to cut corners. Enabled, not prevented. Enabled. What happened next? Well, 3 NHBRC officials are now headed for disciplinary hearings, and the contractor and his government enablers have been handed over to the police. A little late for 30 few funerals, don't you think? And let's not ignore the obvious. If the majority of the dead had been South African citizens, would this system have allowed such reckless negligence to slide? Would inspections have been tighter? Would paperwork have mattered? Or it's just the unspoken truth that migrant lives are just cheaper. This wasn't just a building collapse. It was a system collapse, a failure of oversight, of regulation, of basic human decency. And as long as government departments hand out approvals like party invitations and treat foreign laborers like disposable tools, this will happen again. Zimwaves TV will not let the names of the dead fade into paper. We will demand accountability, and we will keep asking, who builds your cities and who buries them? In memory of the 34, justice delayed is justice denied. Don't let this story disappear under the rubble. Subscribe to Zimwaves TV and help us keep the spotlight on the stories that matter. No spin, no silence. Just truth, even when it hurts.